Hey there. Has this ever happened to you? You hire an Asian American who's smart, but in meetings, he or she does not speak up. Your teammates assume he's got no ideas. You don't want to be racist, but do you ever wonder whether they might be right? The truth is, Asian Americans have hugely valuable ideas. Goldman Sachs reports that in the past 2 decades, Asian Americans drove 23% of all U.S. private sector output growth, despite accounting for only 5% of the population during this period. Then, if Asian Americans have so much to offer, why don't we speak up more? Hi, I'm Joy Chen, CEO of the Multicultural Leadership Institute, and in the next 12 minutes, I'll answer that question by taking you to the cutting edge of cognitive psychology. And I'll give you a 5-step roadmap to help you make your diverse team even more effective. But first, you might be wondering how I worked all this out and got to where I am. It all started one night. I was about 13 when Dad said, "Tonight's the night of my department's Christmas party." I asked why he didn't go. He said, "When I go to those things, I never know what to say to people." I suddenly realized my old man and I had the same problem. We didn't know how to talk to white people. It didn't matter that he was born in China, had made it to MIT where he'd gotten a master's in engineering and now was the hardest worker in his department. Dad remained stuck as an individual contributor for 30 years until he retired. That night, I resolved to figure out how mainstream American society actually works so that I could get out there and do something. Now, I wasn't sure that I could because at school, I was so awkward. But I kept struggling to connect. And then, finally, I got belonged. At age 31, I was appointed Deputy Mayor of Los Angeles. Then I was recruited to the executive search firm Heidrick & Struggles, where I found CEOs and board members for Fortune 500 companies. Then I went viral in China, where I authored books and started a global leadership training company which served millions. Then the pandemic and the racial reckoning. I returned to the States and founded the Multicultural Leadership Institute. And here we are. If you're watching this video, then you're probably quite weird. By that, I don't mean to offend, just saying you're probably from a Western, educated, industrialized, rich democracy. That's an acronym by Harvard anthropologist Joe Henrich, who notes that the weird people who dominate much of the world represent only 12% of the world's population, and that in fact, weird people are some of the most psychologically unusual people on Earth. So how did weird and non-weird cultures evolve in the first place? After spreading out from Africa, humans settled different regions of the world and over time developed civilizations, each with unique norms and behaviors to solve the problems they faced in their environments. For example, weird cultures stretch back to ancient Greece, whose geography enabled fishing, hunting, trading, and shipping, lucrative careers which require less cooperation with others. With this wealth and sense of personal agency, weird people evolved to be exceptionally individualistic, and weird thinking styles became what researchers call analytic, focused on problem solving by breaking down big problems into parts and solving them one at a time. The geography of ancient India and China was better suited to large-scale agriculture, requiring massive irrigation systems and highly complex social structures. Asian societies evolved to be collectivist, with a thinking style that's holistic, focused on problem solving by considering things in relationship to their context. It's amazing that these 6 earliest civilizations were established in just the last 275 generations. So if this is you and your mother and your grandmother, they all arose in just the 272 generations before her. Within this time, they evolved and diversified into modern societies, but how people behaved was learned from the people around them, so societies remain imprinted by their cultural legacies. The printing press speeded the transmission of cultural ideas, but that was invented just 30 generations ago, and until recently, many people couldn't read. Then, in just our generation, an explosion of cultural transmission. We went from the first website appearing to 5.2 billion people around the world using the internet. Now, with remote work, hybrid and video meetings, sometimes it feels like we can collaborate with 5.2 billion people without constraints. But there are constraints. All this collaboration happened in much too short a time for our brains to re-optimize. After all, for hundreds of generations, we stuck with our tribes, and most of us still do. The number one factor we tend to form groups around is race and ethnicity, followed by gender. Group boundaries are enforced by forces of attraction. We hang out with folks like us, and forces of repulsion. We tend to exclude outgroup members. So in companies, outgroup members such as Asians, women, African Americans, LGBTQ+, etc., tend to become what researchers call peripherals, isolated on the fringes of corporate networks. And regardless of who you are, lack of belonging can translate into lack of psychological safety. That's the first reason many Asians don't speak up. When you're an outsider, silence can be safer than speaking. The second reason many Asians don't speak up is values. Westerners highly value speaking as the number one way to express your individuality. Asians don't value speaking as much. In fact, in Asian traditions, for deep thinking, you need silence. That's why we have meditation. The third reason many Asians don't speak up is cognitive differences. Westerners often equate speaking with thinking, so that if you don't speak, they assume you're not thinking, which is obviously a bad thing. But as UCSB cognitive psychologist Hee-Jun Kim writes, Asians think and reason in a less verbalizable way than Westerners. So when talking aloud, Westerners just vocalize their thoughts, but Asian Americans, on top of solving the problem, have to translate their thoughts into words. But this raises a question. Why do many Asian Americans still behave the Asian way? Aren't we Americans after all? And why are American companies so weird? Okay, pop quiz. What percent of Asian American adults over age 25 do you think were born in another country? The answer is 71%. 71% of Asian American adults were born in another country. Let's try again. What percent of all American adults, including Asian Americans over age 25, were born in another country? The answer is 17%. So the reason why many Asian Americans behave in the ways of the old country is that 3/4 of us are from the old country. And most of us who were born here, like me, are the kids of those immigrants. So even if we speak, quote, perfect English, we were raised in Asian ways. Meantime, only 17% of all American adults were born in another country. So to succeed here, you must behave in the weird ways that most Americans were raised in, but which are very different from the way Asian Americans were raised. Asian Americans now are 6% of the US population, 13% of the professional workforce, but only 1.5% of Fortune 500 corporate officers. So the Asian American glass ceiling doesn't look like a slab of glass. It's more like a haze, like air pollution. At first it's hard to see, but over time it stifles the career of nearly every Asian American. Knowing all this, what do you think might be happening here? The Asian American looks at the same data as his teammates, but may see different implications and consequences. Everyone else is thinking out loud, but by the time he's put his thoughts into words, the conversation has shifted, and the boss is driving consensus for his idea. The Asian has no one on the team he trusts to have his back if he speaks up, so he doesn't. Feeling unable to speak up is an experience shared by many. Introverts make up over 1/3 of the population. Add in all those who lack belonging among women and minorities, and many white men lack belonging. That's a lot of people not contributing their best. When you have a team that's diverse but ineffective, the result is value destruction in the form of blind spots and bad decisions, low innovation and low agility, mistrust and low commitment, poor well-being for many. Outgroup members get misunderstood and isolated, so silence can become safer. What is so insidious and ironic is that when we hired for diversity, we did so to avoid these bad outcomes in the first place. Because on many teams, Asians may be the most culturally different from the norm, you can see us as a litmus test for team effectiveness. Are your Asian American colleagues speaking up? If not, then you have an opportunity to do even more to unleash the potential of all your teammates. Look at the Navy SEALs. A SEAL team might include a specialist in communications and one each in surveillance, medical, explosives. Each member not only is able and willing to contribute, but must contribute for the entire team to succeed or perhaps even to survive. Likewise for you, in a world full of disruption, making your team even more effective could mean the difference between disaster or seizing a new opportunity that transforms your future. By enabling Culture Add, you create massive value through good decisions, high innovation and agility, respect, trust, and belonging for all, strong well-being for everyone, and all members feel able, willing, and even compelled to contribute fully. How can you make a diverse team even more effective? Based on my experience helping millions in the US and China lead in diverse environments, I've mapped out 5 leverage points. I'll show you the roadmap and then show you each step. 1. Strengthen your cultural fluency. Cultural fluency is your ability to dynamically navigate complex social worlds. We all see the world through cultural glasses which shape our reality. Misunderstandings happen when we expect people from other backgrounds to act as if they were wearing our cultural glasses. Cultural fluency lets us switch among lenses so that we can see the world as others do. 2. Build one-on-one relationships across cultural boundaries, because the fastest and easiest way to build understanding and trust with someone is to really get to know them. For example, if you're a majority group member, you can mentor out-group members on how things really work around here and get reverse mentoring on how another culture works. 3. Emphasize interdependence and the importance of each teammate. Because we all see the world differently and we each have only some pieces of the puzzle. Just like the Navy SEALs, we need all hands on deck. 4. Structure team processes to promote mutual learning. Because without good processes, meetings often become unconscious power struggles where the loudest and most powerful people win and the ideas of others get dismissed. When we see differences as opportunities for mutual learning is when innovation can flourish. And 5. Reward and celebrate your multicultural champions. Because people don't spontaneously change their behaviors unless there are rewards for doing so. In the keynote version of this presentation, I show you how to put each of these 5 levers into action, and we have fun activating them right away in your company. The great thing is, the 5 levers are not chores like washing the dishes or doing the laundry. They're fun because they're all about learning about ourselves and each other and how to grow together to achieve more. And what could be more fun and fascinating than that? Thank you for joining me today. I hope I've given you an idea or two that you can use right away. You can take full advantage of these insights in 3 ways. 1. The keynote version of this presentation can help you enable your diverse teams to become even more effective. 2. The Asian American Leadership Accelerator is a 6-week online course to help your Asian American employees break through and scale up their impact. And 3, if your company is new to this topic, a fireside chat version of this presentation with your CEO or other executives can help you to inspire and activate your people to collaborate across boundaries. Access all these below. You and I, we are at the vanguard. We now have a bigger opportunity than humans have ever had to build teams that unleash the power of all. Let's get to it. P.S. Folks have been asking for a PDF of the 5 steps, so I made one for you. Grab it below.